You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
So happy to have you with me here today on this Total Wellness Tuesday show, where we're going to be going over the topic of glutathione and why it's essential for you to not only stay healthy, but to prevent a lot of the diseases that go on within the body and mind as we age. So it's one of the best anti-aging antioxidants out there. It helps you to prevent or remove a lot of free radicals from the body and also cut down on these things called reactive oxygen species, as they're also referred to as ROSs. Now, what this means is that the more ROSs you have in your body, we'll talk about how they get there, it causes more cellular breakdown. So not only do you look like you're aging faster, but the insides are aging at a much faster degree. There can be muscle atrophy, which means you start to lose muscle tissue, which slows your metabolism, and not having enough antioxidants and things to squelch all of this oxidative damage can lead to cancer. So it's one of those topics that, I brought up just a couple weeks ago, and it was on our Friday review, and we talked about glutathione as one of the super nutrients of the week. Well, after that show came out, I figured I'd get quite a bit of questions, and I did. So what I wanted to do is always to be able to expound on a specific topic if our community says, I want to know more about it. So what I'm going to do is give glutathione its own show. So instead of 5 to 8 minutes or so of a super nutrient of the week like we do each and every Friday, what I want to do is I want to tell you exactly what it does, how it's formed in the body, how we can get additional glutathione if needed. And so, let's get right into why it's so important. So as I spoke about before, glutathione is a natural antioxidant that our liver actually produces on its own. So we'll talk about that in a moment because it does need a lot of raw material in order to do that. That's why so many people fall short, as well as certain genetic-based distinctions. They're called single nucleotide polymorphisms, or just SNPs for short. And these SNPs, they're not always fully functioning in all people, meaning that there can be anywhere from a 30% to 70% degradation or occlusion of a lot of these specific genetic markers that we do need. Now, a lot of people go overboard in this aspect because pretty much no one is completely shut off. It just means that you're closed down a little bit by a third, essentially, or 2/3, essentially. Now, it just depends on what you've inherited from one parent or both parents. Now, no matter what, even if you are 2/3 occluded, meaning that your ability to produce glutathione from sulfur-based amino acids or other items that I'm about to talk about in a moment, you still are able to produce them, and you can still stay a completely healthy, happy, and live a long life as any individual. So I do want to go over that. I always like to give that precursor that your genetics are not your destiny. There's something to look out for sure. That's it. So one of the reasons why glutathione is even more important as we move from 2018 and even further into the future are all these toxins in the environment. I mentioned them in the rain barrel effect. I really went through them as my top 10 toxins in the beginning of the book. Well, these things are called xenobiotics, and xenobiotics simply means substances that enter our body that are foreign from our body, meaning like our bodies never come in contact with them, nor should it. So, for example, pesticides that are man-made. So natural pesticides would be things like lectins in foods, like from unripe vegetables and fruit and other items like that, beans. But we're talking about what other pesticides are there in the environment, such as cigarette smoke with all the chemicals, plastics that we take in that increase more internal environmental-based estrogen, all the pesticides sprayed on foods, all of the brake dust, all of the flame retardants, all the things that we come in contact to that are basically invisible on a daily basis. Well, Glutathione is essentially our mother antioxidant, the antioxidant of all antioxidants, which helps us to not only bind up and remove a lot of these toxins, but to allow our liver to move from what's called phase 1 to phase 2 detoxification. So it's actually neat for both phases. But what that allows us to do, and again, I've spoken about this at length in the past, and I've spoken about it in the rain barrel effect, is we take these fat-soluble based toxins that get locked up within our fat tissue, which is why a lot of us swell up with body weight rather than just put on some, a little bit of body weight. Our bodies are literally toxic, which is why we're holding on to body fat in the first place, which is why so many of us need to detox rather than just cut calories. But as we start to eliminate these toxins that have been stored in our body, well, our liver needs to conjugate that process and turn it from what's called a fat-soluble toxin that we can't easily eliminate in our stool through our bowel movements, urine, our sweat, or even huffing it off through our lungs. So that's the way that we detoxify naturally. But the problem is that we do need glutathione and all of its precursors in order to fully be able to do that. And that's why as people say, well, our bodies are always detoxing. Sure, they absolutely always are. Or if they weren't, we wouldn't be here today. But what they need to do is do a much better job to eliminate these toxins that we're always exposed to, over 77,000 man-made chemicals in the environment. It needs to do that at a much faster rate so that we do stay healthy, so that by the year 2030, that 50% of all people will get cancer. We don't want that, right? So how do we keep ourselves healthy? Well, the way that we do that and also detoxify a lot of the pharmaceutical drugs that people are taking is to ramp up our own levels of glutathione. And that will help us to reduce things such as Alzheimer's. I did a 3-part series on Alzheimer's. If you want to know how people get Alzheimer's, the 14 specific markers to look for, and how to reverse Alzheimer's, please go to stephencabral.com/podcast and simply type in Alzheimer's. You'll get my 3-part series on that. And I really went in depth. That's over an hour of content on anyone in your life that you care about, that you want to share that 3-part series with and learn about for yourself, especially if you're a practitioner. All right, a glutathione, besides helping with Alzheimer's, helps with dementia and cognitive decline. And that's because free radicals and oxidative damage also affects the brain, just like it affects the body as well. Same with Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, depression, COPD, and cystic fibrosis. And I have to tell you, smoking is one of those leading causes of not only depleting glutathione, but leading to COPD and other items or other issues such as cystic fibrosis. Smoking also leads to a 4,000 greater % of getting cancer. So it's one of those things that if you are someone that smokes or you're around someone that smokes, please do your best to absolutely help that person get healthy, so healthy to the point that they wouldn't even think about smoking. I found that that's one of the best things in my practice, is that we help people get so healthy that they are almost reviled by the thought of putting smoke into their body. And I think it's a better place to start, right? By adding more good rather than the difficult stage of removing cigarettes from their life. But of course, they can't do it. All right, so leaky gut, another one. So glutathione. Now, glutathione isn't the only thing that's going to help with leaky gut, but what it does, it helps with a lot of the protein-based particles that are seeping through, the inflammation, while you're doing something such as the Candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol, the parasite protocol, and of course the Heal and Seal-based protocol, which is that healthy gut support and the daily probiotic support. All right, autism. We use in our practice for autism as well, and that's because there are many components of autism where the immune system is not balanced, and then there's also much more of gut-based imbalances and toxicity within the child's body. And we believe that that's one of the leading factors to getting autism in the first place, is an imbalanced immune system and a gut that was not fully brought up. So meaning usually by the 2 years old, a child has a well-functioning gut. The probiotics that are there are supposed to be there. The gut wall has then finally sealed, and they're able to keep offending pathogens within the gut and then get them right out of the body through the stool. But we found in a lot of children with autism, again, not my research, but I read the research, of course, all the time. And that seems to be one of the leading cases. And that's why all sorts of other issues in life can compound those specific issues. And that's why it's very difficult to know which child is going to get autism, because we simply don't test the gut. We don't test a lot of the genetics, to start with. And so these are things that I know people will hopefully do in the future to cut down the rate of autism, which has really skyrocketed. 1 in 68 is the latest that I've seen keep in mind, only about 20 years ago, it was 1 in 2,000. I mean, so to be now at 1 in 68, it's an issue that I know we talk about it, but we're not giving it enough of the sounding board that it really deserves and needs. ADHD is another one. So attention deficit hyperactive activity disorder used to just be called hyperactive. When I was a child, I was hyperactive, right? There's many, many different facets to this. This can be mineral imbalance. It can be copper toxicity. It can certainly be digestive-based issues, which I know that I had. I can need overgrowth. But at the same time, we're looking at massive oxidative stress on a child's body and adult's body as well. Cancer, we've spoke about that one. Glutathione is absolutely essential to being able to wipe out these cancerous cells that are spreading and really dividing much faster than the body can keep up with. Cardiovascular-based disease, and that's because we know oxidative damage damages the arteries, which can lead to atherosclerosis, a hardening of the arteries, as well as even higher levels of cholesterol, and that would be negative forms of cholesterol, such as LDL. Obsessive compulsive disorder. I believe I mentioned depression a little bit earlier, and certainly anxiety can come along with it, but obsessive compulsive disorder. There's some pretty good research right now with low levels of glutathione and OCD. Rheumatoid arthritis, other autoimmune issues just in general, right? Glutathione plays a huge role. Glaucoma is another one. Liver damage. Now, this just makes sense because glutathione is predominantly manufactured from the liver. And so we, obviously, if we have liver damage or we have cirrhosis of the liver, then glutathione is needed, but also harder to get, right? If your liver's not functioning well. And the last one, we have some really new research on how glutathione is being used to treat AIDS. So if you want more information on any one of these specific health issues that I just went through, we'll call them dis-eases of the body, right? Imbalances of the body, then I would highly recommend simply typing into PubMed or Google glutathione treats multiple sclerosis or glutathione and depression, glutathione and rheumatoid arthritis. Just type it in and see all the different research of how they're using these specific, again, from a supplementation standpoint, but they're using a product that's natural to the body, and antioxidants that's natural that we manufacture ourselves and being used to treat all of these different types of diseases. Now, I put that in air quotes, the word treat, right? Because from a natural perspective, we're not trying to cure or treat anything. We're simply trying to give the body more of what it lacks. And that's, of course, what we're doing right here. Now, it's always best, I do have to say, in MS, Parkinson's, rheumatoid arthritis, even autism, all of these things, is look at a deeper underlying root cause level. Because just giving yourself a glutathione push, which we'll talk about in a moment, is fine, but it's not treating an underlying cause. So, we have a lot of integrative doctors out there. And I love the work. I love the work of all health practitioners. I honestly do. But keep in mind, if you have someone coming every 2 weeks for the rest of their life for a glutathione push, I don't think that you're looking at the underlying root causes of why they have the health issue in the first place. It's my goal within 12 to 16 weeks to help anyone fix the underlying root causes of what their imbalances are. Now, it doesn't mean they're completely better. What it means is that they're basically symptom-free now. We still have to work on the foundation. We still need to build up that organism of the body, remove more toxicities, work on the deficiencies. But within that time span, we can do so much work. And without a doubt, that means help the liver as well. And so, this week, I just started my own 7-day detox yesterday. I talk about that all the time. I'm doing it on a quarterly basis now. I started with the 21-day, and I do, of course, the Dr. Ball detox. But back even before I created the Dr. Ball detox, it was a functional medicine detox, and a lot of companies have them. And what I wanted to do is simply manufacture this to be the best one humanly possible. I wanted to make it vegan, and I also wanted to include everything that was needed, and I wanted to do it at a better price than everyone else. And that's obviously why I always create these products. But, the truth is this, is that I looked deep into glutathione 7 years ago when I was creating these types of functional medicine detoxes. And I realized that here's the thing. Our body makes glutathione on its own, and it actually seems to do a better job detoxifying when we allow it to make more of it on its own. And that's because I was reading the works of Dr. Gerson, Dr. Max Gerson, and I was reading a lot of the natural anti-cancer-based therapies. And what they were doing was they were actually giving liver-based glandulars, and they were doing all sorts of things to ramp the liver up. But they were giving the body all of the precursors it needed as well. The big ones were N-acetylcysteine, they were zinc, they were selenium, and they were alpha-lipoic acid. Now, if you haven't heard of these things before, simply go to stephencabral.com/podcast. Each one of those items, let me check on N-acetylcysteine. Maybe that will be literally my next super nutrient of the week. But let me check on those. But selenium, zinc, alpha-lipoic acid, they've all been a super nutrient of the week. So simply go to stephencabral.com/podcast. Type in any one of those, and you'll see why they're so powerful. It's, really amazing, these minerals and precursors to glutathione that we're talking about. So why though? Why do I believe that that's the better route? Here's why. There's mixed reviews right now on supplemental glutathione at high dosages. Low dosages, no problem. It seems that the body may or may not be able to utilize it as well as it could or should if your liver made it on its own. Now, to me, that makes total sense. Or I shouldn't say that your liver's making it, but it's combining basically 3 amino acids in cysteine, glycine, and glutamate. And what happens is, as these 3 amino acids come together, your liver is the highest utilizer of glutathione, right? So that's how we're looking at it. I don't want to keep saying that the liver is necessarily manufacturing it, but it is the greatest utilizer of it. Just like the adrenals are one of the greatest utilizers of vitamin C, the heart is one of the greatest utilizers of coenzyme Q10, but it's used throughout the body. Okay, so I'm going to give you the foods in just a moment, but let me get back to the supplement part of it. And it's because what I've seen work in my practice and what I've seen work from most naturopaths and integrative health practitioners is that when you use selenium, when you use zinc, when you're using N-acetylcysteine, and I would even say your B vitamins and vitamin C as well, is that you're giving the body all of the raw material it needs to then detoxify on multiple levels, meaning like all of phase 1, all of phase 2, and then you can then make all the glutathione that your body could need. So if you give it the raw material, this to me, it just makes so much sense. It's also why when we look at whether it's powering the cells with glucose or oxygen, you give the body what it needs and then you put it in the right environment to get it done. And that's why as I'm doing the detox this week and I do it seasonally, it's not massive dosage of glutathione. It's really not. In the daily nutritional support part of that you use on a daily basis, it's 25 milligrams, all right? So it's enough to give your body a little bit of a boost, but what does it really contain? Like, I'm not a person that, really likes to promote items too much or anything like that, but I can tell you right now that there's no other product in the world like the daily nutritional support powder, and I don't want to make this an infomercial for it. But the truth is there's nothing else like it. It's just... There's broccophane in it, which is broccoli sprout extract, a food-based, the number one food-based way to get glutathione. There's alpha-lipoic acid, which is the powerful precursor to glutathione. 50 milligrams helps with blood sugar. There's quercetin, which helps with detoxification. 15 milligrams of zinc. There's 70 micrograms of selenium. And I could go on, but the truth is that this is what we need on a daily basis, and then we just need to step back seasonally, just like they did for thousands of years in Greek and Ayurvedic and Chinese medicine, all the different types of medicine. They would step back and they would purify their bodies, and that's essentially what they did. And so the FM detox is a big part of the detox protocol as well, and that's because there's more of the precursors. There's more glutamine, there's more N-acetylcysteine, there's more of all those things that helps to remove these toxins. So what I want to talk about now, though, is how to get those foods to on a daily basis. Because, if you've been listening to the Cabral concept, the idea is to get as much as you can through food. As much as you can through food. That is your basis point. Because you just simply can't replace what we don't know. And that's because we can't recreate broccoli. We can't recreate garlic in a lab. Not like it's made in nature. We can kind of make it look the same, right? But we can't recreate it with all its living enzymes and all of those things. So food always comes first, and then what supplements do is they provide, I call it a safety net. They provide us what we might not be getting on a daily basis because our soil's been depleted. There's not as much nutrients in our food, even organic food. Now, I do recommend organic, and of course, I recommend eating a great diet. So that's how I look at things. I want to give you the foods right now with the highest concentrates of glutathione, and then you can obviously do as you feel appropriate for you. I want to talk a little bit more about how it works in just a moment, why it's so powerful, but essentially, here are the foods, and they're apples and asparagus and avocados and broccoli and spinach and grapefruit and tomatoes and parsley and garlic and oranges and carrots and pears. All right. So they're very, very powerful. If I could give you just three that are the most powerful, it would be broccoli, parsley, and garlic. Now, parsley is easy to throw on any meal, literally. Garlic is great, except for those that are on the Candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol. We remove that for the first 6 to 8 weeks because it's also a powerful prebiotic. So we simply remove that in the beginning, then we add it back in. We don't say that garlic's bad. We just say at one point or another, some people may not be able to handle it, just like onions, right? So, and broccoli, an amazing food as well, and that is allowed on the Candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol. Now, the big thing with broccoli is this. Cut off the stems. Eat as much of the head of the broccoli, those sprouts, as you can get. It is all about the sprouts. You know, the stems fill you up, but there isn't the same nutrition. So for my daughters, one thing that I do is we eat a lot of broccoli in my family. The stems are basically non-existent because they can only put so much food in their belly. Same with me, right? I don't want to overstuff my stomach. So yes, there's a little bit of the stem. There's a little bit of those little branches that reach off to the roots, but I get rid of the thick stem, okay? And even at lunch, I eat a lot of broccoli. Basically, broccoli is one of my staple vegetables Monday through Friday for lunch. And I might even have more at dinner. So what I do is I eat the top of the broccoli all the time, and I don't eat the stem. So it's your prerogative, of course, but I want where the nutrients mainly are. Some people do better with garlic, some people don't. I don't do great with garlic, okay? I still eat some, without a doubt, but let me talk about that for a moment. There are people out there, because of genetics, that don't do great with high sulfur-based foods, and garlic is a high sulfur-based food. So they're not able to properly eliminate the sulfur-based amino acids from their body. So here's what I recommend, though. A lot of people who have a reaction to sulfur-based foods, I'm not talking about sulfur-based drugs, that's different. I'm talking about sulfur-based foods, is that they actually need them. They really do. But here's the problem, that there is some research, there's some theory right now that by having too much, you actually over-detoxify. You eliminate too fast and your body's not able to keep up with it, almost like a Herxheimer-based reaction. You might get brain fog, you might get overall swelling of the body. So what I want you to do is this, is you start at the very smallest tolerable amount. That's what I did, right? So I could barely have any garlic. But what I could do is have the essence of garlic and a little bit of oil at first, and then I could have a little bit in my meals, and then I could, build up from there. Same with parsley. I might have just like 2 or 3 leaves and then build up from there. So that's what I've done, and I highly recommend it for others as well. You'll find your upper limit. The same thing goes for me with histamine. So meaning like, I'm someone who's more prone to mastocytosis. But the bottom line is this. I used to be able to not have any histamine-based foods. Now I can have histamine-based foods. It's not an issue. But it all goes back to the rain barrel effect. It really does. Meaning that there is a certain limit, though, where I've met my rain barrel on histamines. I just can't go overboard. So if you were to give me a glass of red wine with citrus-based foods, like a lot of histamines going on, right? Then if I had too much of that, yes, I would start to get the itchy eyes and maybe itchy throat. Not the end of the world, but I would have met my histamine tolerance. So I would have filled up my rain barrel from my genetics. But remember, we can all correct our overall health. And then we just have to then be aware of kind of what lies in the background. That's it. All right. So what else besides the supplements that I just spoke about, which are the selenium N-acetylcysteine, the alpha-lipoic acid, and then I would say secondary would be more like glutamine, of course, is so amazing, and zinc, those other items as well. But what else can we do? The foods, we got the supplements. Well, one thing that really interests me, again, this is going back now about a decade and really started to get into natural anti-cancer-based therapies, is looking at how everyone was using coffee enemas. And I said, okay, what's going on with coffee enemas? First of all, I've never heard of this before. Second of all, why would you put coffee into your colon? Like that doesn't make any sense. Of course, it doesn't make any sense if you don't know the understanding and theory behind it. Well, when you insert a coffee enema, and it's simple to make, if you've never heard of a coffee enema before, simply go to stephencabral.com/podcast. Remember, 940-something episodes now deep on today's podcast. And you're going to be able to find all that information there by using the search box. So if you type in coffee enema, you'll see the coffee enema kit that I recommend. And really, really simple. It's a stainless steel bucket. You can make it super simple. But here's what happens. I'm not going to explain the coffee enema today. But what it does is it actually boosts your liver's own production of glutathione S transferase. When that happens, you dramatically ramp up circulation of blood through the liver. So it goes from about 6 minutes to every 3 minutes. So you're moving all the blood through your liver at a much faster rate, which detoxifies the blood at obviously a much faster rate then, and it ramps up glutathione production. If you can do that, you can detoxify the body faster. Why would that be important with something like cancer? Well, during natural cancer or conventional medicine-based cancer therapies, what you're doing is killing cancer cells. You need to eliminate that quickly from your body. So in natural-based health, such as the Gerson Institutes, they'll do 4 or 5 coffee enemas a day. And that's because they are looking to dramatically ramp up the liver's own production of glutathione and eliminate those toxins. So pretty remarkable. As I said, you can get a little bit of this boost every day from the daily nutritional support, which is safe for all ages. Obviously, for children, you can do a much smaller dose. Pregnant nursing women, still completely fine because we're at a super low dose. And it's just your daily nutrients, obviously, for the day. It's a full multi, full antioxidant, full minerals, all that great stuff. And then you can obviously do your seasonal detoxes. You can work with your local functional medicine practitioner, whoever you're working with, to be able to ramp this up. So it's just, glutathione is something that we're going to learn even more about in the future. I told you I would give you just the things that I'm not a huge fan of right now. So I'm not a huge fan of massive dosages of glutathione for an extended period of time. Am I okay with a Myers cocktail that adds a little extra glutathione? Yes, I'm okay with that. Am I okay with short-term use of larger dosages of liposomal glutathione or reduced glutathione, one of those? Yes, I am. But not for the long term, because IV glutathione and larger doses of glutathione has not been safely established yet. I want to be careful what we do, especially since methylglutathione is a compound that our body actually produces in our own liver. And so it's something called GGT, and it's something that we actually downregulate glutathione in the first place. So our body's going to allow only so much glutathione unless we find another way to basically upregulate that and not allow for our own liver to use something called GGT to knock it down. And that's why I don't want to go overboard. I don't usually believe going overboard is the best idea. I don't believe it's the healthiest idea. I believe always giving the body the raw material that it needs and then allowing it to do its job in the best way possible. I believe as a natural health practitioner, it's not my job to heal you. It's my job to help you find out the toxicities, to help you find out your deficiencies, to replace those deficiencies, help to remove the toxicities, and allow your body then to be in the position to heal itself. So hopefully that makes sense. Really enjoyed doing today's episode. It was based on your feedback. So anytime you do have these questions, anytime it warrants a longer episode, I'm always happy to do that. Thank you so much for tuning in to another Cabral Concept. And as always, if this show is helpful, please do feel free to pass it along to anyone else it may serve. Before you go, I wanted to ask you this question. What if I could teach you in just a couple of hours how to transform your thyroid, hormones, adrenal, cholesterol, blood pressure, blood sugar, weight loss, energy, mood, brain, pregnancy, anti-aging, or many other health-related issues? After 20 years in private practice, after seeing and overseeing 250,000 client appointments, I sincerely feel I have the real-world data and have found the answer you've been searching for. So what I've done is spent hundreds of hours of my own time refining what you need to know in order to uncover your underlying root cause health issues and then begin to rebalance the body and bring it back to a state of robust health and wellness. I'm going to teach you exactly what I do in my private practice so you can understand how you got here and now what you need to do in order to heal. You'll receive all of the important success checklists, protocols, and even ways to customize it to make the program fit your busy life. And you'll get all of this at a fraction of the price. Let me save you the time, money, energy, stress, and frustration of not knowing what to do next. Instead of reading dozens of books on the topic and seeing multiple practitioners, I will condense everything that you need to know in just a few hours of video tutorials that you can watch and listen to anywhere. Together, we will make this healing process an enjoyable one that you can take with you for the rest of your life. I wish you all of the best of health and happiness, and I hope to be able to guide you on your healing journey through my Health Results Accelerators. Simply choose the health imbalance you're currently suffering from, and by the end of today, you'll know what went wrong and how to get well again. I guarantee it. For details, head over now to stephencabral.com/courses.